Hi everyone, and welcome to Aries Solar Eclipse Astrology with me, Shantae Out Loud. Today we're going to be talking about the upcoming Aries Solar Eclipse on April 8th, 2024, and we're going to just be breaking down all the important factors of this eclipse. So, as always, before I get started, let me introduce myself. My name is Shantae. I go by Shantae Out Loud. I am a practicing self-taught astrologer of 12 years with practice of astrology in business for the last 5. People come to me when they're ready to put themselves back in their own universe, and I'm here to help them with astrology-based strategies to have them own their purpose. So I'm grateful that you're here, and if you like what you hear here, I encourage you to go to shantaeoutloud.com and see some more stuff that I have available for you astro nerds. So thank you guys again for being here. I want to preface today's video, like I guess I always do, with a little bit of information about kind of the overall machinations of this eclipse before we get into the official aspects and what's coming up and what's going to come out. So, this eclipse is highly Aryan, right? We're going to have the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, the North Node, and Chiron all in the planet, or all in the sign of Aries. So a lot of what is going to be happening as a result of this is going to center in the area of your chart that has Aries predominantly within it. Now, as far as the degrees go that attach to this energy, we're looking at about between 15 and 25 degrees for most people with this energy that are going to be affected pretty strongly, because that's about as far, Mercury is at 25 degrees, and I think, the North Node is exactly at 15 degrees during this eclipse. So this is where that kind of crossroads, we're right in the middle of the road for this Aries energy and its eclipses. We're almost out of the woods. We're going to start that Pisces Virgo eclipse axis in no time. So do know where this energy is sitting for you. But more than anything, this energy, although highly Aryan, is ruled by Mars conjunct Saturn in Pisces. Now, Mars conjunct Saturn is not going to be official until later on in the week of the eclipse. I want to say it's the 10th or the 11th. I can't think off the top of my head. But regardless, this energy is going to become most potent and most available later. But it's all deeply ingrained in the solar eclipse because it's an Aries solar eclipse, which means that the ruler of Aries, the planet Mars, is in Pisces and making an aspect via conjunction to the planet Saturn, also in Pisces. So whenever we're talking about Mars in Pisces, and certainly Mars conjunct Saturn as a whole, we're really being asked to take a look at the direction that we have been provided or that we have been encountering up to this point. Mars is all about that penetrative force. It's about focus. It's about action. It's about details and strategy. But it's also about trying to figure out where it is that we're going, right? And in the sign of Pisces, that is prone to disassociate or be really confused or kind of disassociate and come in and out of its own life, this can be a little bit of a problem. Hence why we say Mars in Pisces is Mars at its detriment. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to mean that we are incapable of doing anything with the energy that is presenting itself to us right now. It does mean that we're going to have to be a little bit more critical of our reality in order to take hold of the next direction that we're seeking to move in. With Mars in Pisces and its conjunction to Saturn, whenever these two planets come together, it can feel like, despite really wanting to move and choose a sense of direction, Saturn comes and provides blockages, or Saturn comes and knocks us down or takes us down a peg and kind of reminds us of where we are. And so when we're talking about Mars and Saturn in conjunction together throughout this eclipse, we might come into a crossroads. Where are we going, and what is at the foundation of the place we say we're trying to get to? Mars and Saturn can either be pulling us up by our bootstraps and saying, wow, this thing no longer stands. I'm working towards making that change. Or, hey, this thing is going to continue on. And if it's going to continue on, here's the foundation of the cycle that you're building towards. In any event, cycles are a huge part of this solar eclipse, especially because we're talking about large Piscean energy, which means coming to the end of the cycle. So with Mars and Saturn together, a lot of this could feel like, am I going to come to the end of the cycle, or am I going to stay with this cycle and keep it going? And that is the question being asked and posed by this energy. Now, when we look at the rest of the planets and the way that they're showing up, I think partially, especially with Piscean energy, we do have to make time to think about where cycles place us in our lives. In terms of that, in terms of cycles and where they go and how they place us, we have to think really closely about where we see ourselves in 6 months, because that's the cycle of this solar eclipse energy. Based on whatever it is that you're currently dealing with right now, is it worth it for you in 6 months to still be on this journey because you want to change or don't want to change? Or is it worth you shifting it right now and seeing yourself in an even better place in 6 months? Now, when it comes to this, we do also have to acknowledge the way that Mars and Saturn's conjunction is going to be affecting the energy of people right now. Mars conjunct Saturn is an opportunity for us to either open space and recognize where we've got ourselves fucked up, or an open space for us to cross our arms, sit down crisscross applesauce, and refuse to move from what is not serving us. Wherever this energy is in your life, you're getting a clear example and a clear reason and some clear clarity about what isn't working and where you're going to need to go next. What may come up, and what is probably going to come up for many people, is where they're not. And that's a reasonable thought, right? It's hard sometimes for us to come to terms with where we're not, and how we had plans but we dropped them, or how we were going to do this thing but then we met someone and they had us do this thing. And although those feelings are very true and valid, they do not have space in this solar eclipse in Aries. You do not have a whole bunch of time to weep for yourself right now. The world will not weep with you for the choices that you take that actively work against you. That means taking responsibility and saying, you know what, if I want my life to be this way, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to maybe have to cut something out. I'm going to maybe have to cut someone out in order to make this reality more fluid based on what I'm trying to create. Now, the problem with Mars Saturn is because Pisces energy can also deal heavily with repression. People's feelings are repressed and coming up to play. And we know that when repression takes place, we're not always in control of our bodies, our minds, or our emotions. Repressions are usually we don't recognize it until a trigger happens to show up. And then we're being called to maybe have to walk something back. So do be aware that triggers are going to present themselves in your life as well as the lives of people that you are connected to, that they're going to try and project outwardly. For some, this is very much closely linked to being physically violent, especially if you are a man or have men in your life. I would be very mindful of this time because men generally will repress their feelings and their explosivity is generally violent. That is a fact. But if you can manage to keep yourself safe and protected and really take the time to self-interrogate, you can recognize where you no longer need you no longer need to continue to resonate with these feelings of anger. One of the mantras I'm personally using during this eclipse is, now I know. And the reason I'm using this as my mantra personally is because, to be honest, it really doesn't matter what you didn't know yesterday. It really doesn't matter. All that matters is you're waking up today and all you have is today. What are you going to do with it? I was talking about the Langoliers last week, and it was crazy. It's like I had this feeling like I needed to watch the Langoliers like crazy. And for those of you who aren't familiar, I am like 30, so I am a Stephen King kiddo. And Stephen King made a great movie, maybe I think it was the 90s, called The Langoliers. It's a 2-taper, and you can find it on YouTube. So if you are a nerd and want to watch it, please do, because it's so fun. Anyway, it's a movie where there's like 8 people. They all hop on a plane to go somewhere. All of them end up asleep, and upon waking up, they recognize that the plane is completely empty. People's watches, their wigs, their stuff is there, but they're all gone. So the pilot finds a way to land the plane, and they stop at an airport, but there's no one at this airport. And they're like, what the hell is going on? Why isn't anyone at this airport? That's super weird. And it's because they have managed to fly through a time loop that has actually sent them back to yesterday. In the meantime, they're hearing these loud noises, and they're like, wow, what is this noise? We find out from one of the characters that this noise is a thing called a Langolier. And what Langoliers do is they come and eat up yesterday. The purpose of the Langolier in this film is ultimately trying to make people become aware of the responsibility that they have to show up, to do the thing, to be the thing every single day, instead of counting on, yeah, maybe not this year, but next year, or maybe not, today, but probably tomorrow. If you didn't have yesterday and all you're guaranteed is today, what would you do with it? And where is it going to take you? And like, now that you know what you have in front of you, what are you doing with it? Like, that is the focus of it here, right? We can't always use yesterday. We can't. In fact, if you're here in the United States, there are actively people working to try and pretend that yesterday does not exist. There are Langoliers all over the USA. But in any event, making sure that you know what you don't know, you become okay with knowing what you don't know, and you actually move to find people who can help support you in finding the know. This goes back into what I said about cycles, right? So cycles persist when we resist. And resistance is a big theme in this solar eclipse energy. Resistance is oftentimes what we do because we're afraid. That's usually at the bottom line of the energy of resistance. I'm resisting because I can't tell the future. I'm resisting because I heard it didn't work out for someone else when they tried to do it. I'm resisting because somebody told me I was never going to be shit. I'm resisting because I'm being lazy and simply don't want to interrogate or investigate where this fear is coming from. One of the best things my hypnotherapist shared with me was fear is a reasonable response to situations that we are unfamiliar with. I know, it was crazy, but it's true, right? It is okay to be afraid of what we don't understand, of what we've never seen before, of what has never happened before. But I said it with the Libra eclipse, the lunar eclipse. It doesn't matter that you didn't get the best example to do the thing. It matters how you are showing up now that you know that you didn't get the best example to do the thing, to learn the thing, to try the thing. Stop being afraid to take accountability and responsibility for the fact that the reason you're not doing the thing is simply because you don't think it's important enough for you to put your effort into. It's not important enough for you to try. It's not important enough for you to self-investigate and self-interrogate. And that sucks. If you want it to, unless that's what you want, but 9 times out of 10, if you're having this recurring thought, it's because you want to try it. How about we lean into that? It's like I said to my clients, and maybe I said it here already, I do not use the word hard. Because for me, when I hear, see, think of hard, I immediately resist. I throw my body on the ground and start flipping around like a 2-year-old when I get the word hard. What I use is challenging. And the reason that I choose to use challenging is because when challenging shows up, as a word, it breeds an opportunity in my mind. The challenge might be justified. It might be a hard challenge. But if I say it's hard, I'm not interested. When I say it's a challenge, I've got the right to choose, right? If somebody says it's hard, they've already decided for you. If someone says it's hard, they've already decided for you that it's difficult and maybe even impossible. And I know that that's not always the truth, right? Just because something is hard does not mean it's undoable. Just because something is hard doesn't mean that it's impossible. It just means, do I want to rise to the occasion or not? And that's key. Upon recognizing your resources, the next best thing for you is to recognizing your resistance is to align yourself with the right resources. You're recognizing the cycle. We'll use it all. We're recognizing the cycle. You know what? I really want to get my body together. I really want to get back in the gym, but I feel really insecure and I'm tired of always feeling like I want to lose weight or feeling like I'm not comfortable in my body. So now, but I have to recognize that I resist. I don't want to go to the gym because I don't feel comfortable at the gym. So I make excuses for myself to not be there. My work commute is really hard. So I feel like when I get off, I just want to go there. You're resisting, right? So maybe we need to see a resource like an expert. Maybe you need a coach. Maybe you need a fitness coach, right? Same thing with business. Man, my business keeps seeming to do this thing where it hypes up and it stalls out. Hypes up and stalls out. You know what? Let me sit here and see the resistance. Am I interested in the business I'm running? Do I still want to run it this way, or am I ready to update it? Do I want to create something new? You know what? I think I do. Let me go ahead and find the business consultant that I need who's going to help get me to the place I want to be. Part of this is also means being discerning, right? About who those resources are and where they're coming from and how they're going to support you and if they can support you. Because I think sometimes we assume that people who posit themselves as resources automatically are, and 9 times out of 10, they're not. And most times, if we think about it, we can sometimes be like, I should have known when she didn't send me this right away. I should have known when this didn't happen that was not a good idea. Please be discerning right now. So to move into the actual eclipse itself, there really isn't a ton going on. I'm not going to waste any more time on Mars and Saturn conjunction because we talked about it so much at the beginning of this video. But I do want to talk about Sun, Moon, Mercury, Chiron conjunction because it's huge. It's so self-involved because it's Aries. The sun and the moon, how we're feeling, what we're feeling sourced by, what we are receiving right now is more opportunities for us to show up as our most authentic selves. And this might mean getting in touch with some vulnerabilities. That's where Chiron plays a part in this eclipse is, hey man, I am really vulnerable. I'm not necessarily the most comfortable with doing this thing or putting myself out there this way. Or, you know what? I don't really know what I'm supposed to do. I do need to seek out the resources that are going to help me figure it out. Like these are the ways that we're interacting with Chiron and Aries. Chiron and Aries is like, own your shit. Like own the fact that you don't know everything. Because Aries likes to posit like they've always got, a clue. Own the fact that you're a little bit scared of moving forward and trying that new thing. When you take ownership of our fears and our vulnerabilities and what we perceive to be failures, not only do we choose a new way of living, but we can also open ourselves up to helping other people. That's why Chiron's a wounded healer. When we choose to recognize where we maybe can't always fit in and come and express it to another person, we can open ourselves up to the possibility of being able to understand more about ourselves and the world. I mean, it's so focused on you. I can't really say too much else. Make it about you. Make this eclipse about you. Sit down by yourself. Lay down by yourself. Journal by yourself. Spend some time by yourself. Quietly. Maybe you need to go social media free for the next week. Maybe you need to not listen to so much music for the next week. Maybe you need to not listen to so many podcasts for the next week so you can get these messages and interrogate yourself the way you need to figure out what it is that you want and that you're doing for yourself moving forward. Focus on yourself. Now, when we talk about horoscopes, just to do some briefies, I'm going to go ahead and go through like Aries, Libra, Taurus, Scorpio, because they're on the same side of the axis and they're kind of going to be hitting in the same places. So Aries and Libra, this is a new beginning being offered to you with your relationships and people that you say that you are connected to and how you choose to connect with them. For some of you, this could be you're ready to take a step out in business and want to be seen. For some of you, you're ready to posit yourself as a resource to other people, or finally take people up on the resources that they've offered you. You might be able to get some real growth and some real opportunities as a result of that. Taurus and Scorpio, this energy is mostly going to fall in that 6th and 12th house axis. So a lot of this has to do with conscious and subconscious ways of being, right? But at the same time, we're still looking at Mars and Saturn and Pisces in the areas of your chart that are the 5th and the 11th house. I think that Taurus and Scorpio, you guys need the most alone time this eclipse to recenter yourselves about what you're interested in experiencing and who you're interested in experiencing with. Gemini and Sagittarius, it's time for you to put yourself first in your projects and in the way that you present yourself to the world. You don't need a crutch as much as you think you do. And if you think you need a crutch, you need to re-examine the foundation of who you are. You are the crutch. That was for myself because I'm a Sag rising. Anyway, Cancer and Capricorns. Cancer and Capricorn energy, you guys are needing to choose how you want to show up in the world and what you're showing up in the world for. Where are you moving towards? What are you interested in? And how are you putting yourself in position to shine based on these interests and the things that you're creating? Leo and Aquarius, this energy is mostly falling in areas of your chart that have to do with learning and expansion. But it might cost you a little bit in time, in relationships, in resources in order to get there. Aligning yourself with the right times and the right resources and the right processes is going to get you wherever you want to go next. Finally, Pisces and Virgo. You guys have this energy mostly falling, of course, in the areas of your chart that rule the financial sector and the ability to garner resources for yourself or through your gifts and talents. Maybe it's time for you to try something new. Maybe it's time for you to put yourself out there with regard to business and using the connections that you have to people as a way to lift yourself up. It also could be time for you to recognize where you've been too beholden on other people to push you up and where you need to push yourself up instead. So there's a lot happening with this Aries eclipse, but I hope that everything that happens for you is in, your own best interest. I guess final words are protect yourself before you wreck yourself. Disengage where it feels like you should. Be discerning about where you're placing your energy at, and be safe. That's all I've got. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you have a magical eclipse. My name is Shantae. You can find out more about me at shantaeoutloud.com, and I'll talk to you soon.